Mark, Leah, can you both hear me? Perfect. Let me turn this off. I love it. I love it. So, all right, we tried something new. Could you guys hear that okay on your end? Everybody out there, could you hear that video? I think that is one of the most creative videos I've ever personally seen that had anything that to do with green energy, net zero. It's just kind of funny. Mark, I know you said that like you started almost crying when you watched that video for the first time.
This is a great way to start the day. I'm so glad this was the intro. It's wonderful to have you on. I did. Dave sent it to me and he said, don't share it with anyone. And I watched it 3 times in a row. It's just brilliant. And it's lighthearted, right? People know that it's intentional and it gets you thinking. And bless your heart. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everybody, if you're just joining us, this is BS Friday, and we are here to talk about building science and offsite construction, and we're merging the two together all the time. And we have a super special guest, a building scientist, as they call them, right? Past park ranger as well, and I know she's going to talk about this. This is a person that is, I call them overachievers, Mark. I don't know what to say, but I think Leah's an overachiever. But Leah's with Deltec Homes, and Leah, we are so grateful that you're here. So with that said, if everybody out there can please hit their like and share buttons, because Mark, what channels are we on? We're on 3 channels today.
So you can always see this content on YouTube. It stays up there for your viewing enjoyment and to be inspired by people like Leah. And then, of course, there's the friendly social media outlet called Facebook. And then there's the professional platform of LinkedIn.
The LinkedIn platform. And that's where we're at today. And this is where we're going to talk with other professionals today. We're going to talk with other building sustainability, house wrap, green, energy efficient, building science, structural integrity, everything that Deltec Homes has been doing for a long time. So I think this is great. Leah, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know you know it's coming, but I want your life story from the time you were born until right now within 5 minutes. Can you do that for us?
I'm sure I could do that. Probably in less than 5 minutes. So yeah, I guess I work at Deltec Homes. I'm our green building and sustainability manager. It's a very long mouthful of a title. And we're here in Asheville, North Carolina. I guess I should just throw that out there. It's a beautiful mountain town. And I've grown up within a radius of this area my whole life. And so being in the mountains and being an outdoors person is like a really big piece of my life. But as far as the building science track, I went to college like most young people do, wanting to save the world in an environmental perspective. But I was always just so into everything. Like, didn't matter if it was physics, math, language arts. I loved it all. So I had a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do. And I sort of just fell into physics, believe it or not, as something that was just really, really interesting to me. So I ended up double majoring in physics and environmental science, which is an odd combination. Had no idea what I was going to do with that. I really just thought they were both just so interesting. And when I graduated, unfortunately, it was the recession. It was 2009. So there wasn't a whole lot going on, but I wanted to stay where I was in town, for at least for a little bit. And I just happened to find an internship available at Deltec Homes at that point in time. And it was in green building, which is something that I was interested in. But it turns out that physics and environmental studies is like a perfect background for a building science career, because it's about understanding both the technical side and getting really interested in those things and being willing to chase down the details, whatever they are, about cause and effect, even if it's really murky, complicated stuff. I love that. I love that so much. But it's also about tracing that back to the big picture, especially, in the green building world and the big picture of sustainability, right? And how the buildings that we're building and living in, how our use of them and our building of them affects the environment. And there's a lot of science wrapped up in all of that. And then I've been at Deltec 10 years. So it was one of the first, I would say, not professional. Yeah, sort of like mostly professional job that I did outside of school. I did some other things in between. Like I mentioned, the park ranger, I was an intern there for a while. and I landed here. I have moved up from being an intern to being the manager of both our sustainability departments. And I do a good bit of R&D work for like helping us develop products, incorporate other products as well. So yeah, I guess that's the story of my life. I rock climb a lot. I really enjoy that, and hike, and I like to play the piano as well. And I get to do all those things when I'm not working, so that's good.
So when you rock climb, do you take the piano with you?
No. No way. Although, with one of those little portable keyboards, that may be a new thing. I should start a new thing about that.
I enjoy scrambling a whole lot, but the rock climbing, I'll go on the free climbs, but I'm not a rope guy. So bless your heart for doing that.
Yeah, I like it all. The ropes, the boulders. I mean, I don't like to do like Alex Honnold kind of stuff, like without a rope, but
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. So you rock climb. Now you're going to bring your piano rock climbing. That means you're a pretty tough cookie at that. You have to be if you're in building science. You got to be a tough cookie, right? I don't know if cookie's the right word, but you got to be a tough individual. And to rock climb, you have to be tough. And also to be a park ranger, to deal with all those outdoors people, you would have to be tough. So I think that's absolutely awesome. And I think that's probably why we're going to learn why you have been so successful in what you have been doing, because the path that you have gone down with Deltec Homes is, just like offsite construction, it's just coming out of the woodworks now. People are really starting to understand it and pay attention to it. And the people like yourself that have been doing it for quite a few years now, we've been kind of weathering that battle and always having to educate. And that's why we have this show. We're still educating. So I love it. Mark, why don't you kick us off here on this?
Yeah. So the story of getting there is great. And are we diving deeper into how you got into the field? Is that where we're going here, Dave?
Yeah, I think we absolutely have to. And I think that's where, the people that are listening are really going to understand where Leah is coming from. And if you haven't seen the passive aggressive video intro, you need to go back and watch it, because there's a lot of creativity here as well. And I think, you'll really have the full picture. So why don't we jump into a little bit deeper on how you got into this field?
Yeah, please share with us. I'm anxious. We had a nice time talking earlier this week, and it's important for people because Dave, her story was very similar to that of Lindsay Elton's back in the recession and going through it. And the more we can get folks like yourself reaching out and saying, "This is my path," it's really an inspiration. And so please take it away and take us on a journey.
Yeah, and I do think that what I have noticed in the building science world is that people do fall into this field from a lot of random and different places. And I think it's because there's lots of arrows that lead us to the importance of building science when people end up working in the construction industry in general. And I had mentioned my basic story was that I had a physics degree as an undergrad, which I ended up pursuing purely because of interest, not necessarily thinking I was going to go to like physics graduate school, although I considered it. But then I fell into this instead and was like, this is so much better because this is applying physics to people's real world life, which is buildings. Everyone has been in a building, of course, so everyone has their experience with what it's like to be in buildings and being in homes and with what some of the problems with them can be. So that, that's kind of what building science is really about, is like applying the scientific method to how to make them better, how to maybe reduce some of those problems.
Yeah.
But I did kind of meander into it because I mentioned it was a recession. So I did some research for a while, some physics research, ended up like working on zip lines for a while just to like do something. And I did do a brief stint as a park ranger in Shenandoah National Park. And that was actually, I think, really a helpful thing. It was short and I loved it, but this job came up and I thought that would be a better long-term fit. But what we did is we were interpretive rangers. So we're about, understanding the science and then talking to people in programs about, okay, here's the resource, here's the natural resource, here's the things you as a person need to know to experience really well. And I've taken that into my role here at Deltec because I work a lot directly with our clients. So we sell our homes straight to homeowners. And so most of the people that I talk to, I talk to a fair number of builders, but most of them are homeowners who want to build a house that's really sustainable, but they don't know where to begin, or they might not know where, they have different levels of knowledge, but lots and lots of interest usually. So it's about interpreting, building science for them, what makes it relevant to them.
Right.
And that's definitely less of like getting into the techie stuff, although I do love that stuff. And whenever I get really techie customers, it's really fun. But you don't have to be techie, to want and to need and deserve a sustainable home. And to believe in that. And I really do love trying to find, I'm always trying to improve the way that I can make that information more relatable to homeowners or would-be homeowners.
You're making it relatable. You're making it relatable right now. I can picture Jennifer next to Dave writing down T-shirt lines, right? from physics to building science on a zip line. Right? you don't have to be technical to be sustainable and to live in a healthy home. Those lines are things that we share all the time, and you're delivering it. And
right.
I love that you shared that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that you said deserve, right? People, like why shouldn't people deserve to live healthy? Right. I mean, that should be something for everybody, right? You should have the opportunity to be healthy. Now, we know that's not feasible in all of its senses with the houses because there's so many old homes out there, but we can change what we're doing from this point forward. And over time, that'll catch up with us. So I really liked how you just said, the deserve part of that. So kudos to you. So, hey, Mark, I see some names popping up in the comment sections over there. Some of them are all the way at the top of the NAHB. You know who I might be talking about?
Dave, I think you're talking about the one and only, the mover and the shaker, the guiding light, Mr. Greg Ugaldi.
How you doing, Greg? Good to see you. So, Leah, if you don't know, Greg Ugaldi is the immediate past chairman of the National Association of Home Builders. He will be on the show Monday on the 24th, and he's going to have an associate committee chair on. So that's awesome. Greg said he's going to start bringing some people in from the ranks in DC and what have you, which is great. So, Greg, looking forward to it. And yes, it was my birthday. I'll put it up. This is the first time I actually said this to anybody. So, thank you, Greg. It means a lot. When you tell me it's a happy birthday, that's kind of cool, man. So, thank you very much, and everybody else out there that's wished me a happy birthday. I think it's I'm at like 450 responses I have to do, so I apologize if I don't get right back to you today. So,
well, Dave, if you give one a day for a year, right, then you get to start over next year.
Well, he's at more than that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let's give a couple quick countdowns, and then Leah, we're going to jump into this real quick because I have a feeling this feed's going to build up pretty quick, and we need to stay ahead of it. So Scott Farman, hey Scott, shout out to graduating in 2009 to this industry. Love it. Jennifer Cooper, Renaissance woman, and she's not in the background today. She's out. I'm in the Carolinas as well, everybody, right now. So she's on kid duty. This is our family trip, and yes, I'm still doing this because I committed to a full year. So we're going to make it happen. Even if I'm hospitalized, I'll be doing this. So, hey, Adam White, good to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. All right, Scott Farman, as someone who was recently on the hunt for a new home, newish construction, it is incredibly frustrating to see no mechanical ventilation being implemented this day and age. That isn't even a big tech ask. Interesting, right?
Yeah, he's right. That frustrates me too.
Scott, in the chat, you should share what you do professionally so people understand why mechanical ventilation is so important to you and to all of us.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And then Jennifer also wrote physics, zip lines, and healthy homes for all. Even though she's not here, she's here. Man, she's everywhere. All right, let's hop into this now, Leah, okay? I absolutely love the intro, the video. We're off to a really good start here. I want to really dive into, well, let's just put it up there. How do you personally approach your role as a building scientist? This is such a cool thing, right? Who calls, the term building scientist is new to a lot of people. And I think you explaining what that truly means will help benefit a lot of people. Because I'm going to call you doctor from now on. Building scientist sounds like a doctor.
Well, I don't have a doctorate, at least not yet. But I I definitely love getting lost in reading about the research. And I think, having that physics and undergraduate research background, I do love wading into it, but I have to pair that with acting upon it is part of what I do, helping clients understand the latest to act upon it, or helping builders that I work with as well implement building science details. And it's interesting because there's a whole, the information is often changing. And so you've got to really kind of keep paying attention to what's changing. A lot of it's very subtle things, materials, subtle things about materials to be aware of, I think is a really common one. And then obviously the mechanical side as well, as Scott had brought up with fresh air ventilation and all kinds of things. Yeah. There's a lot of information, and a lot of the information out there is changing. It's coming from different people at different rates, especially when you're dealing with people in the industry. They can have outdated knowledge and or knowledge based on their experience, which is an important microcosm of experience. And, everyone's got their own little microcosms of experience. How do you integrate all that? So I think it's partly just having this attitude of I can always learn more. I know what I know and I want to share what I know matter of factly, but I don't know. I'm not at the end of what we know. We're never, that's what the science attitude is we're never at the end of what we know. And it's also, as I mentioned, about figuring out ways to make it relatable with clients. And I brought this up before, but I did start off more techie in terms of when I talk to people. Yep. And I used to write novels of emails to people. And actually, some would argue that I still do. But trying to I was so excited, trying to tell them everything about this thing that they asked. So they might have asked me a question should I look at geothermal versus something else? Or what is fresh air ventilation? That would be a question that I would get a fair amount. I've heard about this thing, but I don't really understand what it even is and why I need it, which is great. I mean, a lot of people are there, and that's, we need to talk about that. So I used to just write novels to people. And I've learned to scale it back to probably do it with a phone conversation as well as with an email, follow up with written, but also talk. And then I've also learned to try and find metaphors, because, that's one, and this goes into one of the questions about something I've learned is that people are always comparing the experience of their hypothetical new home to whatever their past home was.
Yep.
And I don't always know what that is, because there's a zillion different types of existing homes, and 7, 8 different climate zones in North America. So getting that context, or what is their what is their experience from which they're asking this question, and how, when I tell them the answer, are they going to be thinking about what they've lived in? And so trying to think more about that and think about metaphors to help people out. I think an example of a metaphor that I've used successfully is trying to talk to people about the difference between single stage and multi-stage or infinite stage mechanical equipment, or heat pumps and air conditioning systems. Number one, most people don't really understand that much about what a heat pump is. So it's worth trying to talk a little bit about that. They may just
they understand a thermostat on the wall,
right?
And they might know how to work it, and then that's it,
right? Or people have different ways that they've integrated with that before. But then, so the idea of the advantage of a multi-stage or infinite stage system, I've started trying to compare that to a multi-gear bicycle versus a single-speed bicycle, or even a CVT transmission. In the case of an infinite stage, I know they're not exactly the same, but it helps people get the metaphor across that there's some technological differences that are worth considering.
You and Mark.
What's that, Dave?
I said, Leah and Mark, you guys are going to hit it off, metaphors. I don't know anybody else on this video right now that likes metaphors more than Mark, but I may have just met his match. We're going to have a metaphor battle.
When you were talking about this here, I went to the story of the 8-year-old who walks into the family room with his parents, and he says, "Hey, where do babies come from?" Right, and then the parents look at each other and they go through the whole story of the birds and the bees and da 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 da, and then the kid goes, "Well, Janie said that she was born in a hospital." Right. So it is that storytelling. And I get what you're saying of going into the context. We have all these buildings and we have all these climate zones. What are they asking? And sometimes it's a very simple question, but we're programmed to be analytical and to think of all the scenarios, like what does VRF mean, right? And all these acronyms. Right. Dave, what does VRF stand for?
Very fun. VRF, very righteous and fun. Virtual righteous and fun.
So,
ventilation, recovery.
So Dave, that's your definition, and Dave always gets me to answer the acronym. So as a birthday present, he answers one. Leah, can you tell us what VRF stands for today?
I believe it's variable refrigerant flow.
Perfect, love it.
So here's the follow up to that real quick, Mark. What does variable refrigerant flow do?
Oh, what does it do? Yeah. So my brain is
short answer.
Yeah, my brain is this big, but what it does is it allows you to turn on a dime and be responsive to affecting the heating and cooling flow of the space. So you'll find it a lot better than I would say taking a gas force furnace, right? Or taking a condenser from outside and acting like it's going to make a response on a dime.
Love it. All right, perfect.
I have a follow-up. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
You said you dealt with the context of there's microcosmos, right? And each area is different. When we were on the phone the other day, you spoke to us that there's a local building certification standard, and I think originally when I got into all these sort of third-party things, I was overwhelmed that there were so many, and I wanted one standardization and just the silver bullet for everything. And I digressed from that, and I love that you brought that up the other day because it deals with the climate, it deals with the materials, it deals with the people, the housing stock that exists, the accessibility to energy that's in that area, right? Some people have hydroelectric, and so they could do different things. Some people have sunshine, so they could do different things. So can you tell us about that and your role in that locally?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to our local green building certification program. And that came up because the homes you saw in those videos, those are our model homes. We have two up in a little bit north of Asheville, and they are certified through a local green building program called Greenbelt, North Carolina, which I tell people is pretty equivalent to LEED. But it's a program that our local green building nonprofit called the Greenbelt Alliance created. I think even as far back as 2008, and maybe even earlier than that, I think. Probably earlier than that, probably 2006 at least. As a way of recognizing homes that incorporate substantial green building practices. And we created our own standard. You're right, there's that whole issue of there's so many standards. There's actually a really funny, I don't know if you follow the webcomic XKCD.
No.
It's like a nerdy webcomic, but they have a little thing about that where they have all these people being like, there's 13 competing standards. That's too many standards. We need to make one standard that covers every use case. And then the situation later is now there's 14 competing standards. And it kind of makes me think about that. The green certification world sometimes makes me think about that. And no wonder homeowners sometimes get overwhelmed when they're just like, they might have heard of LEED or passive house, and they don't know the difference necessarily between all those things. And that is part of what I spend a lot of my time helping people be educated on. But yes, locally, when I say we, I mean the Greenbelt Alliance, which is not Deltec, but I actually am on their board. So it's local builders, local people in our sustainability industry in Asheville who created this standard. And it does, I think, I like it because it does reflect our local industry, like you had said, the energy mix in particular in our region, and especially our climate, because our climate, we're in a mixed humid climate, which I love it. And I don't want to advertise the climate too hard in Asheville because then everyone will want to come here. Because it's not quite as hot as the rest of the South. But I joke that, we don't get the extremes of cold or maybe the extremes of heat, or I should rather clarify, we don't get them for as long. But we really get them all. We get pretty extreme cold, we get pretty extreme heat, and it's humid all the dang time.
All the dang time. There's another
Yeah.
t-shirt. All the dang
That's
time.
the Southern coming out in me. And so, having a local program, I think, helps us kind of address those things.
So Dave, the neat part in the listening here is, so your personality and your lifestyle has brought you to this career and this path, but then over and above, you jump in back to the community and you volunteer on these boards. And this is something that is you find again and again in the green and sustainable energy, that people spend time way additional to their career and their job, and they educate and they promote and they explain to people and they offer these choices of healthy and comfortable spaces. And I want to acknowledge you for that, and I hope that other people are inspired for that too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you go above and beyond. You just don't go to work. You go to work, and then you continue with your passion, educating, and that's what's so great about it. And that's why we love having people like you on this show. And listen, everybody, if you're just tuning in, we are on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Thought that was a good point to put that in there. Hit that like and share button. Tell us where you are joining from. And Leah, I just want you to know you just got an invitation from Greg Ugaldi. To join us on the mall. Let me pull it up here. Mark and Dave, we need to involve Leah as a panelist at the Innovative Housing Showcase on the mall that we do. NAHB, DOH, Ben Carson, all of them are going to be at this thing. So that's interesting enough. So we'll continue with that conversation. But I think that's a great idea, Greg. I do, because wait until you learn about Deltec Homes. Not only are they doing green and sustainability, and that's probably why you put it up there, you researched a little bit. They are an offsite construction builder, and this is what's so fabulous. And that's what's going to drive us into this next portion of this conversation, is really understanding, Deltec Homes, how long they have been doing this, because they've been doing it a lot longer than anybody that I know, living and breathing this stuff. And why don't we jump into that just a little bit, and then we'll get some more comments and questions.
Beautiful. Let's go. Fair
enough?
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about what is Deltec's approach to resilience?
Okay. Yeah, and you're right. You segued into that. We are a panelized home building company, or home manufacturing company. Our manufacturing facility is here in Asheville, and we've actually been in business for over 50 years. So it's definitely a staple of the Western North Carolina community. And we started off building homes, or manufacturing homes, I should say, for the resort industry. And that was just kind of a relationship that started. And so you may have noticed in the videos that the shape of our homes is a little unique. They're round homes. It's not really round. It's a multi-sided polygon. And there's actually math words for the number of sides for each one, but I don't have those memorized. The round home, it started off because our customers were resort industry people who wanted something really unique. And so if people stayed in a round building, they thought that was cool. But it also turned out to be very, very resilient. Like, a lot of our clients were on the coast of North Carolina, the coast in the Southeast in general, or in just real high elevation, like ski lodge, just places where it was really cold or really windy, or sometimes both. And so this round home kind of became a really good template for a super resilient structure. And we actually have had, we've had a number of homes over the decades that have survived really intense hurricane force winds. We have a really strong hurricane track record. So that's where we talk about the resilience piece of that. And part of it's the shape. It's just a naturally wind resistant shape. And from an energy efficiency side, the shape has some benefits too, because it's less exterior surface area for the same interior square footage. But it's not just that. We also use really quality materials, durable materials, which that pairs with the building science sort of things as well. We're using very engineered connections, like all the connections between the roof and the walls and the floor are highly engineered. And so the way we look at that is, I'm not a structural engineer, I'm a building scientist, but we have a structural engineer, and he and I really work very closely. We review every home. He kind of looks at the structural engineer side of things, and I look at the building science kind of things, and we have this synergy going on. And sometimes there's some give and take, like especially in the highest wind zones where a lot of people aren't even building with wood, but we are able to build with wood because of how strong our homes are. There can be some give and take with structural integrity versus reducing thermal bridging and all that stuff. But we have a good creative collaborative relationship, I think, to sort of sort some of those details out. And that I actually find that really fun. I think we both push each other to learn a lot of new things.
So tell me a little bit about the customer that you're building for. I really want to understand, so the clientele, because you've been doing, how many years has Deltec been doing this now?
We have been in business for over 50 years, but it's morphed a little bit from resorts to customers. So our straight to customer business has probably been about 30 years, maybe more than that. Right.
And it's a panelized approach. Tell us a little bit about, if you know, where's the passion come from? Because it always starts with a passion, why somebody wants to start doing this, especially when it's not the most popular thing to be doing when you started.
Well, you mean for me or for customers or for either one?
Well, for Deltec Homes, and where did the passion begin for when this all started, doing the passive homes or the net zero homes?
Well, I think it's been there. I mean, I've been there 10 years, and I feel like it's always been a part of it.
Culture.
Part of the culture. When I started, our current president, who's Steve Linton, he was in my role as the green building person. And he had created some of the templates for that in place. And then he moved up and became the president. And so that kind of informs having that background in sustainability. But being the president of the company, I think really does inform the decision-making process and the values. And I think it's such a cool, some of the passion comes from the fact that it is a cool template. You can do so much with it, and I tell people it's a little bit like a Lego kit, this idea. So it's every single one of our homes is custom. We're not selling predefined floor plans, at least not in our round home collection.
Right.
And so it's the different size rounds. You just add to the number of sides to make the structure bigger, and it changes the angle between the sides. Or you take away from the number of sides and they get smaller. So we have anywhere from 300 square feet to 2,500 square feet in the round.
Wow.
And then on top of that, you can
change.
Yeah, and it's also self-supporting, at least the upper level. So the roof system is like a keystone kind of system. Well, it's not a keystone, but it's like that same kind of concept. So it's self-supporting as well. So no interior poles necessarily for the upper level.
You know what's interesting is while you were talking about the collaboration you do from the building science side to the structural engineer side, I got captivated by how gorgeous the buildings are, right? So what you do with the engineer allows for the buildings to be comfortable and to be strong and to be durable. But what the consumer notes is how beautiful it is. And because that open span exists, those ceilings are just works of art. I'm a wood lover, right? I'm a wood freak. So it is breathtaking. It's like your whole roof is not this gypsum paint, blah, blah, blah. And no offense to the gypsum people out there, but good God, that wood is beautiful.
Yeah. And you could do a drywall ceiling if you want, but the wood ceiling is definitely a nice. And that's part of what makes it fun too, is because it's a panelized kit. So there's predetermined parts and pieces, but within those parts and pieces, clients can mix and match as they want. Like you can take 2 rounds and add them together with the connect. You can do all kinds of stuff. And then all the interior finish stuff that's all finished on site. And that's up to the client's creativity. And that's so much fun for them, I think. There's just so much you can do. And every home ends up being so different.
In fact, we don't get the experience today because the internet was out, but one of your clients had one of your homes built and delivered. And then 6 years later, I think, right? They said, we love it so much that we're going to make a whole nother wing. And so they have two of your roundhouses, right?
Mhm.
Different square footage, and then joined like a dog bone, as she described
Yeah,
it.
it's a dog bone
Uh,
house.
so it's one thing to have an addition on a house, and those of us in construction realize how difficult that could be. But for an offsite company to have a client so in love with their building, and for you guys to say, "Oh yeah, we're all set. Let's add on," and it happens. It's a
Yeah.
testament. It's a testament to your team and to your relationship with the clients and to the product that you produce. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that, going back so many years that you out of the box thought about we're going to use offsite construction and we're going to use building science. I mean, just the thought process that went into this and for how long you have been doing it. And the fact we did have a customer that was going to come on, but they couldn't join us because the storms are rolling through and their internet was out. Or we were going to walk you through one of these awesome homes. It's the sheer fact that how many years was she in her home?
I think it was 6.
Yeah. I mean, but still, referrals are everything. Customers and the pride, and they started off with one section, right? And I believe she added on to her house, is what she was saying. And I think about that. She added on to her house, and it's designed in a way that she was able to do that. And they were still happy to come on and talk up a big storm for Deltec. And I think that's a huge feather in your cap.
Yeah.
Dave, do you know why round buildings were originally invented?
I do not. Tell me.
It's so the kids wouldn't get lost in the corners.
Or you couldn't put them in the corners, right? It was all right,
terrible
here we
joke,
go.
but hey, it's all about quantity, not quality, right?
Absolutely. Love it. All right, so let's kind of go through this. So you've been doing this for a while, Leah. What's one of the most interesting things that you've learned in this entire process?
Wow. I mean, I learned so much about building science by doing, and so it's hard for me to pick one building science thing because there's just so much and I love it all. But I think I reflect a lot on interacting with people as also a point of learning. And I think from a working with customers standpoint, one of the things, the most interesting thing I've learned is just that people have to feel like when you're working with a client, they have to feel like they are the ones driving the decisions. Of course they do, because it's their home and it's a custom home. And I feel like sometimes what building scientists ends up doing, whether it's with clients or with builders, is like arguing people out of what they think is like not, maybe dumb or like not good building science. But really, people only feel good about decisions if they've made those decisions for themselves. And so it's with something as important as their house, if they're a homeowner or if they're a builder, if it's their business, they have to really feel good about incorporating a building science strategy because they have made the decision and they've understood it. So what I feel like I've learned is that's the goal, is to present pros and cons to people in ways that are relatable to them, for them to feel like they have owned the decision about, whether they're going to use, VRF heat pump or some other kind, or a geothermal heat pump, like those kind of decisions. Yep. I don't want to just tell people what to do because that doesn't work.
No.
But telling people the context so that they decide is what works.
Yeah. And it's a give and take, right, with the customer, because there's the give and take between what people want and what they can afford to do as well. Right.
Sure,
and I
absolutely.
think is that a big topic of conversation? I'm sure it has to be.
Oh, yeah,
always.
Absolutely. And I mean, anytime you get into building science, too, there's always degrees of ways that you can approach things. And you're going to have the people who want to take it, like all the way to a certain level. And you're going to have the people who just think the whole thing is dumb and they don't want to hear any of it. Yep. And most people are somewhere in the middle. And most decisions that you make about a detail or, an insulation or heating, cooling specification or whatever are just some kind of trade-off, between other things. And it's hard to really say what the right answer is. And I bet if you asked 5 different building scientists what the right answer is, you'd get some convergence for sure. But like on the actual details, I feel like I've seen lots of debates. And then I'm like, well, I wonder what I think is right. And what's right depends on the situation, the customer, the budget, the climate, and maybe even just a judgment call between different competing things.
There's an answer that our friend Michael Ingui from the Accelerator always gives, and he says, talk about the attributes, talk about the attributes, talk about the attributes, the different accoutrements of the building, and go there, because everything else depends. And if you get lost in the science, you'll lose the audience.
Yeah,
that's true. Although the science is fun, but
yeah, it is. Well, the opposite of building science is uncomfortable, unhealthy, right? Unpredictable, non-durable structures. I almost said undurable. That would have been good. Undurable structures.
Well, it is, but it's the same time. So it's fun. It's fun for you, Leah. It's fun for you, Mark, right? Leah, you like to write long emails, right? I can't stand like Mark's heard this before. You send me a long email, I'm picking up the phone and calling you. So you might as well save yourself the effort, just because that's not my thing. That's why I'd rather be on video 6 days a week, So, but I mean, I think that's the kind of the push and pull. Like when you have a consumer who really needs to understand building science, talking in your language on what that thermostat really means and translates to dollars means more to them than talking about VFR.
Right.
VFR or FVR, whatever you said, VFR earlier, right? So that's going to stick with them more. And I think that's something people have to understand. I don't do spreadsheets. I can do them, but it's like, where's my mindset versus somebody else's mindset that really geeks out on this stuff?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love spreadsheets.
Oh, good. I'll start sending some over to you when I don't want to do them. Right. Oh yeah. I love it. Mark, you went silent on us, Mark.
I think you're muted.
No. Let me drop you out and bring you in. Are you back with us? No, you're muted now.
Hello, Dave.
Now I can hear you.
Is there any questions from the audience based on now that they had the opportunity to see the home, and while you look for questions, Leah, can you tell us a little bit about the wall assembly itself? What a typical assembly might be configured as?
Yeah, and we have a range of options for our wall assemblies for different climates. But the big thing about our way of doing it is we are what's called open stud framing. So we are panelized. We call it panelized and not manufactured because we're pre-building the wall, and it's usually the base wall is a 2x6, but we have upgrades up to a double stud wall. But we're building that in sections in the shop. They're 8-foot sections because that's very material efficient, and that works with our round shape. So we got 2x6, we got 5/8 CDX plywood, and we do plywood because of the durability and the water resistance and the wind resistance and the shear strength that we need in really high hurricane zones. So we don't use OSB. We will often add a layer of foam, insulated foam, house wrap, and we use a drainable house wrap. We pre-install and pre-flash windows if people want to have windows from us in their package. And then on the rounds, we can actually even pre-install siding. Just because that 8-foot by 8-foot kind of section allows us to do that without the joints getting kind of weird. But the open stud means that we're not pre-insulating between the cavity in the factory.
Okay.
And we're building for the roof and the floor. We're building trusses as well. They're specially designed radial trusses with the self-supporting feature, but they're trusses. They're scissor trusses. So that means that the shell goes up very quickly, which is one of the benefits I'm sure you guys like to talk about offsite construction.
Yep.
But the inside looks like any wood framed stick built construction. So it's inspected that way and it's permitted that way, which is pretty expedient. So I think it's like a really nice hybrid actually between totally site built and then modular or manufactured, which has some benefits too, but there's a lot more that's done in the factory that you often have to go like a different inspection route for.
Right.
And then that way people will insulate their homes with anything that you could conventionally insulate a home with based on their goals, their budget, their climate zone. And so that would be anything from, fiberglass, cellulose, blown-in blanket, spray foam, rock wool, whatever people want to use. And that's another thing that I will sometimes talk to people about is like pros and cons of different materials, because that's regional and that's also personal preference.
Yep. Can you tell people what a double stud wall is? Not everyone's familiar with double stud wall.
So
is it showing that picture?
It's not showing a picture now. Oh, there's something showing. that's probably not going to show the double stud wall,
Yeah.
but it's instead of one layer of like 2x4s, which is what a typical wall in most of the U.S. is built with, maybe 2x6 if you're in a colder climate. We have 2 layers of 2x4s inside of a 2x10 top and bottom plate that are staggered. So there's spacing between them and they're staggered. So that's trying to, reduce thermal bridging, but gives you, more than double the typical space for cavity insulation. So it's a method of if you're trying to build a super, super insulated home, which you may be wanting to do in a cold climate, or if you're trying to do like passive house level kind of stuff, it's just a way to, go above and beyond with the level of insulation that you have.
It's interesting what you said with yours. You use top and bottom plate as a 2x10, not a 2x8.
Mm-hmm.
So that, so folks realize a 2x10 is 9 1/4 wide, right? It's not 10 inches wide. And a 2x4 is 3.5 inches deep, not 4 inches. So 3.5 and 3.5 is a full 7 inches. And then you get the void between that, even though they're staggered, but you basically have very limited thermal bridging going on. You're only seeing at the top and bottom plate, which is minimal square inches, not square foot. But then you have a cavity depth of 9 1/4 inches. And depending on your insulation choice, that is a very, very robust wall. And even if you were to lose power in a building like that, your interior comfort would not change for a period of days.
Right.
Especially if you keep the door closed.
And the window shut. Yeah, Harris Woodward did that for a while as well. And that's where I originally saw that. And he's a modular guy that's really into building science. And I want to get to a comment here just because it's pertinent. And I know I'm skipping over some people. And Greg's going to hop in again. But Greg obviously has been to your manufacturer. And he said, Leah, when I toured your plant, I thought that you were starting to enlarge structures by combining structures, join round structures with a hallway. And I think that's kind of what we talked about yesterday with Carrie, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the basic round, we have the different size basic rounds. And then we also have the ability to add what we call them wings or connectors. And those are usually square. And they come off, at a whatever angle from the home. And you could do, 1-story, 2-story of any of those things. You can kind of stack them in different ways. So there's lots of configuration possibilities, which is why we say that every home is custom.
Right.
Of all the projects you've done, what's the largest one that has received the most rounds? Not necessarily the most square footage, but the most rounds that you could think of. It's meaningless to this conversation, but I'm curious.
Probably four rounds. There's thinking of one in Florida they did where they had like the round in the center was like the guest area, the main area, and then they had little ones coming off that were Airbnb. Right. I think that's cool, but I will point out that you're adding surface area when you do that. So if you want maximum wind resistance and maximum energy efficiency, the base round is actually the best package for that.
That's well put, right? Because you're maximizing your interior square footage and minimizing your exterior material use.
Right.
But again, people that choose homes don't always do it on price. They do it on, I want my in-laws over here and I want my neighbors over there, right? So it's dexterity.
Everyone's design needs are different. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hop into some comments here. Can you believe it? It's been 53 minutes almost already.
Wow.
I feel like we're getting warmed up.
I know there's a lot to jump into here for sure. Well, let's get some quick hellos because I've been jumping over some people to talk to some other people. So Scott Farman answered your question, Mark. I am a building performance analyst at an MEP engineering firm in Chicago, a CHPC and registered architect. Helping raise the bottom line is very important to me, and I think there's a significant gap in the conventional single-family home sector out there right now. So great response. Thank you. Shane McNutt, good afternoon from Ohio. Nudo, gotta love Shane always joining. Jerry McCullough from Pittsburgh. Hey, Jerry. All right, Jennifer Scott Farman, thank you for joining us today. I should have read that before I put it up there, but yes, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Scott
Dave,
Farman,
for full disclosure, Scott's a good friend, and he's involved in our passive house group in Chicago. Great guy, wonderful presenter. I think we'll see him in a few weeks.
I love it. Yeah, hopefully we do. So, Andrew Seeley. Love it. One standard good. And of course, we can't do much without having good old George Ryman joining us from Phoenix, Arizona, Shorefoot Foundation. It's good to see you, George.
George changed his line today. He went to a product plug. I think that was specifically because of Deltec. So cheers, George.
Brandon Pazinski. Can you say that last name? Pazinski, I think.
I think his name is Brandon.
Brandon. So, what does XKCD stand for, Mark?
XKCD for everything. So CD, I'm assuming is the layering of the plywood, right? The C side and the B side.
That's that comic that I referenced. It's a geek web comic, XKCD.
Oh.
I actually don't know what it stands for, and I think that's part of the joke.
I think it's funny that Leah knew what this was about, and she let us both stumble. You got a good sense of humor.
Well, because I referenced it earlier.
So traditionally, Dave, in sheathing, right, we use a CDX, right?
Yeah, so close.
That's what I was saying.
I go right in my building materials thing of acronyms, and here we're talking about animated comics. So hey, let's do it.
I love it. Well, hey, we'll just follow Al's lead. KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Al's one of the best. Al has a whole building component systems that blows people's mind, and he thinks construction really needs to be turned on its head. So yeah, keep it simple, brother.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for joining us, John. Look, it's Chicagoland. What's happening, John? Good to see you. We got Dr. Brent Musson joining us as well from out west, passive multifamily one day. So
the good doctor.
He is the good doctor. He's just a really cool dude. I love every time I talk with Brent. All right, Scott Farbin had a question for Leah. Since these assemblies elements are already designed and manufactured, do you have an idea on embodied carbon for a module or similar application?
I do not. That's one thing that when your title is Green Building and Sustainability Manager, you got a whole lot of things going on all the time. Embodied carbon is something that's on my plate to dig into, but it's not something I've yet finished digging into. So I don't have an answer for you, but that is absolutely something that is on my radar that I would like to start quantifying and helping clients make decisions based off of. I actually think that's important. Well, and I think embodied carbon is not on clients' radars a lot, so I want to find a way to get it on their radar too. Sorry.
Statistically, Leah, it actually puts you straight to the forefront. So like for existing buildings, right, the embodied carbon is incredible. If we tore down all our existing buildings, we would implode because there's not enough energy to replace that. But what you guys do with the offsite tailored manufacturing is your embodied carbon is at a different level because the waste ratio, you're taking 8-foot studs and you're making 8-foot by 8-foot walls. So your waste is a toothpick, right? Versus a dumpster and a dumpster and a dumpster. So yes, we're calculating that produced offsite and being delivered to onsite, but all the materials that are done on site are also calculated for the road of transport. And often to multiple facilities, a manufacturer brings in their raw material stream just as a supply house would. So you're actually going to be at the forefront. Your numbers are probably going to be industry leading, especially coming from North Carolina, because it's one of the few parts of the U.S. that has access to timber.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what we need? We need a glossary of terms so people that really don't understand what embodied carbon means can understand what it means when we have these conversations, because we talk about it, but I don't think the general populace would be able to tell you exactly what that means.
We need a PH dictionary is what we've been working on with the people that you know, Dave, but the problem is what we want to call it is not let's say politically correct. So that's okay. That's okay.
When does that matter on this show?
Yeah, we can PH our way forward. Leah, this is great. Brandon's back. Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon's
P.
back. Let's get one more comment in here. We're almost at 1 hour. Leah, sounds like you have a similar education background to myself, but you've been able to pivot into building science. Would you say your extensive knowledge base is built from on-the-job experience, building science journals, additional coursework, or BS Fridays? Well, I'll just answer that from you, Leah. I know you've learned everything from Mark, Willie, and I on BS Fridays, so you don't even have to answer Brandon.
Okay.
Thanks, Brandon.
I would say mostly on the job. I mean, I think having the physics background primes you to like get the concepts really quickly. You know, like you're applying, it's not like new physics, right? It's thermodynamics usually, some material science, airflow dynamics, stuff that you can pick up probably from it, you know, doing some online reading about building science too. But on the job is really critical for me. Seeing things in the field has been so helpful because there's theory and then there's practice, right? And they're not the same, or they're often not the same, and bridging that gap between them is a lot more difficult than I think I had ever thought back when I was just in theory world.
Right.
I do think, you know, there's great resources online to read about building science, you know, like the Green Building Advisor blog, Energy Vanguard blog. Some of those places have definitely helped put it in theoretical context, as well as the building science, Joe Seabrook's buildingscience.com and all his stuff. Definitely love reading that stuff.
My favorite is the Wingnut Test Facility by Peter York.
Yeah.
So you've been in this industry a long time, and what people don't realize is today this information is everywhere. There's associations and alliances on top of others, but when a lot of us got into this, it didn't exist.
Right.
And so what happens is we all got into the relationship of sharing. And so typically in construction, you do it your way and you don't share. But in the green or high performance or energy efficiency world, we've all been sharing because we didn't have access to this information, and we want other people to get it and to get the shortcut. And I know we're in the after hour part, so I'm going to keep diving, Dave. Well, Leah, what you were saying there about physics, it's so interesting because so much of building science is applying that physics, and people aren't aware of it. And what we're starting to see, the big change, is the physics has been continually accepted, and now people are really applying the biology and the chemistry of how all these other things impact our buildings, which impact our lives. So it's fun to have the physics, and it's interesting to see the continued rolling of the biology and chemistry as well.
Yeah. The thing you said about sharing is interesting too, because I think you're right. That's to me, that's what makes science. It's experience that you're sharing. Because if you didn't do it yourself, how are you going to know? You have to learn from trial and error, and you can't do all the trial and error yourself. There's just not enough time. So you have to share. And that's, I think, that's what I feel like what makes building science an important concept to give on to building, because you're absolutely right. Historically, the building industry, you know, there's various ways people have done things over the years that they're going to still want to keep doing them that way because it worked for them. But they didn't necessarily see, not everyone saw the same cause and effect all the time, especially when it's the subtle little stuff that happens later to the homeowner, like the house is uncomfortable or it uses a lot of energy or the air is not very healthy. The builder may not care about that because they don't see it, you know, but building scientists is all about trying to see that and then share that back out.
We've never had buildings in the past that were airtight, so we didn't really worry about building science. We had leaky buildings. So if they were leaky, right, they were leaky, and that's just how it goes. But then you have people that are driving it forward and creating open source, like what Joel's doing, Dave.
Splash modular, yeah.
Open source to say, hey, there's plenty of work for all of us. This isn't about me holding the secret. This is Dave's soapbox, right? This isn't about me holding the secret nugget. This is about me sharing it and pulling it forward. It's such a blessing to have that in the building science and net zero and passive house community. And the fact that you guys have been doing it for this long means that If you haven't dove into Deltec, dive in, meet Leah, and continue the story with your own team.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that more than ever. And I feel like, Mark, I'm with you and Leah. I don't even think we got into where we wanted to even dive all the way into. There's so much here. And we did. Everybody joining us. We really did. We had it lined up. We had a virtual tour set up. The internet wasn't working. So I think we're going to have to do a follow-up on this and actually get into one of your homes.
That Dave, that's what I was going to say. Leah, you guys produce all the time.
Yep.
It would be fun, Dave, if you could bring, if it's allowed by you guys, Leah, for Dave to come and see the factory and show that what he's allowed to show. Right, that's up to you guys.
Yeah.
But certainly, also another part is to deliver that experience on site of the truck arriving and assembly. Very few people have gotten that opportunity in life, and the fact that we all work virtually, that video and that captivating of an audience is what will change the knowledge of consumers and the process of our industry to catch up, right? And to enjoy it, because that's what we want to see. We want to see buildings built the way you build them.
Absolutely. We're taking the show on the road, Leah. So we are going to be traveling to factories and homes all across this country here, not too much longer. So we should put Deltec on the list of manufacturers that are doing innovative things. And we're talking with several people to make this happen. So we'd love to add that to it. So
Sure.
What a great show. I think there's a follow-up on this one, Mark. Leah, well, one more thing. You're going to take us out here. And the question is, what is your favorite quote?
Okay.
Here.
So the one I was debating between two, and I think the one I picked was a Joe Stiebert quote. I don't know that he said it. I think I read it in one of his Building Science Digests, but it was the solution is the cause of most problems, which I know that's an interesting note to end the show on. I didn't know I was going to be ending the show on that, but I think that's a reminder just to keep things in mind, that we're continuous improvement. You know, usually you feel like you've applied knowledge to solve a problem, and then like 5 more come up that you got to learn about. So the journey to know more never ends.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's it. And Mark, you got anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
I think it's funny that's the quote you use. We had a T-shirt for years, and the back of our T-shirt, the front of our T-shirt was our logos and all that. And Dave knows I wear a lot of logo stuff. And the back of our T-shirt was, "Our solutions are your problems."
You know what? Hey, you should bring that T-shirt back.
I don't have them anymore. Maybe I could call one of our guys. Maybe they still have them, but
I could think a million ways to spin that with site construction and off-site construction, and we could make a lot of fun out of that. Well, hey, listen, Leah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys. It was fun.
It was a pleasure and an honor. We're going to have you back on, and I want to thank everybody out there for joining us today. If we didn't get to your questions,
I got one more, Dave. Everyone, please tell a friend that it's Dave Cooper's birthday so he can read more messages this weekend.
Hey, to be fair, I am so grateful for everybody that's reached out. It's amazing. And I am truly trying to respond to everybody, best I can, one at a time. So thank you very, very much for that. You're helping to keep me young. And as much as Leah likes to write, my answers and thank yous are going to be short and sweet, but it's just because I love video. Maybe I'll just start sending videos. All right, everybody. Thanks again, Mark. I always appreciate that. You guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you next week on BS Friday. And please tune in Monday for Greg Ugaldi, the immediate past chairman of the NAHB, and he's bringing a special guest, and he did not tell us who it is yet. So you wait and find out, because I'm waiting to find out. We're going to have fun. Mark, Bare Naked Willie, Leigha Dickens, and Deltec Homes, thank you so much for all your time today. We will see you. I'll see you tomorrow, but we'll see the rest of you next week. Take care now.